Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. Today's our lecture topic is interleukins. Interleukins are any class of glycoproteins produced by the leukocytes for regulating the immune responses. These are of many types. They are actually naturally occurring proteins that mediated the communication between the cells. They used for the regulation of the different cell growth, differentiation, and motility. Particularly, they stimulate the immune system responses. Many of the interleukins are synthesized from the helper CD4 T lymphocyte cells. But not only comprises to these lymphocytes, they are also synthesized by many type of sources. First of all, what are the types of the interleukins? They are present in huge types of interleukin. Almost 30 to 40 types of interleukins are to be identified. They all are used as the modulators of the cellular behavior. They secreted rapidly in response of an infectious agent and binds at the target cells with the receptor and triggers a cascade of signals to be initiated by these interleukins. And by triggering this cascade of these signals, they can alter the cell behavior. So they are actually the modulators of cellular behaviors. These are also the types of the cytokines, a group of cytokines which are comprised of different signaling molecules. The most important interleukins are interleukin 1, interleukin 2. First of all, interleukin 1. Interleukin 1 is synthesized from the macrophages, lymphocytes, endothelium cells, fibroblasts. These are synthesized from macrophages, endothelium cells, fibroblasts, and lymphocytes. First time these are discovered or synthesized from the leukocytes. That's why these are called as the interleukins. The target cells of the interleukin 1s are T cells, B cells, macrophage, endothelium cells, and the tissue cells. The effect of these interleukin 1s are they are used for the lymphocyte activation, leukocytes activation, endothelium adhesion by controlling the fever and regulate the sleep. Then interleukin 2. Interleukin 2s are solely synthesized from the T lymphocyte cells and they are used to target T lymphocyte cells also. These are actually used as the T lymphocyte cells growth factors and used for the growth of the T cells. Interleukin 3 are also synthesized from the T cells, but they are targeting the bone marrow cells and used for the stimulation of the bone marrow growth. Interleukin 4 are also synthesized from the T cells and they are targeting the B and T cells and very important for the B cell growth factor. They are actually the B cell growth factors. Interleukin 5 are also the B cell growth factors. Interleukin 6, these can be synthesized from T cells, B cells, macrophages, fibroblasts and lymphocytes, and they targeting the hepatocytes and B cells. They use for the B cell differentiation and the synthesis of the acute phase reactants and effective against the hepatocytes carcinoma. Interleukin 7, these are synthesized from the lymphocytes and they show to target the B and T cells of the cells and stimulate the proliferation of the immature cells. Interleukin 8 are also synthesized from the T cells and macrophages and they target the cells of granulocytes and endothelium cells. Interleukin 8 is important for the stimulation of neutrophils, act as chemotoxin and the inhibitors of the leukocyte adhesion. Interleukin 9 are also synthesized from the T cells and targeting the T cells, and these are used for the growth enhancements of the T cells and the mast cells. Interleukins are very important for the cure of different types of diseases. They are the natural compounds, these are the natural proteins which are synthesized by the body naturally against the stimulation of different foreign particles invading the cells. Interleukin 1 family contains many interleukins. They function as for the stimulation of T helper cells, maturation and proliferation of the B cells, and activation of the cells, role in the inflammation, acute phase reactions, and for the control of the fever. They are also used for the stimulation of growth and differentiation of cell response. Especially they are used for the synthesis of the glycoproteins IgG and IgE synthesis that are important in the allergic reactions, allergic responses. They are used as immunotherapy to treat the cancer or stress for transplant patients. Used in clinical trials to raise the CD4 counts in HIV positive patients. Interleukins used for the cytokine production, histamine release. They inhibits the thrombic cytokine production, TNF beta and osteoclast formation. They are also important for the differentiation into cytotoxic T cells with interleukin 2, increase the interferons gamma and the interferons alpha, decreases the production of the interleukin 10 and increases the interferons gamma and interferons alpha synthesis That's why they are very important for the treatment of the different types of hepatitis. They are also important for increasing the inflammatory actions of cytokines. Pro-inflammatory role. They show the pro-inflammatory roles in the asthma, induce production of interleukin 4, interleukin 5 and interleukin 13, which are very important for the isophil expansion. These are important for the differentiation of the activated B cells into plasma cells. Antibody secretions, important for the antibody secretions. Acute phase reactions promotion, hematopoietics, differentiation and inflammation, etc. in case of invading of the foreign particles within the body, and by showing the fever-like systems, they are very important for the control of the inflammation. They have many, these interleukins are very important for the cure of different type of inflammatory responses. They are used for the cure of arthritis, carcinoma, many diseases like cancer, multiple carcinoma, autoimmune diseases, cell sclerosis, liver sclerosis, hepatitis, AIDS, chronic inflammatory conditions, diabetes, and many other types of asthma-like conditions. They are the novel targets for the different autoimmune diseases, and they activated the enzymes which are used for the as the inhibitor of the different types of viruses. So they are very important. Interleukins are very important for the cure of different types of diseases. They protect the body against the different types of injuries, and also very important for the ischemic strokes. Interleukins are the family of cytokines. Cytokines are actually the compounds which are naturally synthesized by the T lymphocytes cells against the production of any type of inflammatory responses. So these are very important to regulate the immune responses, and these class of glycoproteins are synthesized by the leukocytes for regulating the immune responses between the cells. They have huge importance regarding these interleukins, and by knowing about their types, we know that they are very important growth factors. They are very important for the stimulation of the bone marrow growth, for the acute diseases, for stimulation of the proliferation of the immune cells, and they are very important against different types of diseases. This is a class of cytokines which are used to treat naturally by the body against the against the foreign particles produced by inflammations during the inflammatory responses. By producing these interleukins, the body responds naturally against the diseases, and by these responses towards the cell behavior, by changing these cell behaviors, these interleukins change the the cell behavior, and by changing these cell behavior, the severity of the disease could be lowered down. Now we are knowing through the mechanism of action of the interleukins by one example, how they are used in allergic inflammation reactions. Epithelial epithelial cells different allergens different types of bacteria during allergic reactions invading the epithelial cells dendritic cells violet cells interleukins activated act upon the globulate cells. They act upon the eosinophils that increase the level of reactive oxygen species generated the leukotrienes act upon the smooth muscle cells neutrophils prostaglandins, histamines, acted upon the mast cells, produces the IgE antibodies, they acted upon the B cells and produces IgG antibodies. IgG antibodies. This is the mode of action of the interleukins during the allergic reactions. When there is an antigen allergic is acted upon the epithelial cells, the epithelial cells allow them to penetrate these allergens into the tissues, and by entering into the tissues, these allergens with the protease activity can cleave the epithelial cells, tight junctions, proteins, and gain access to the submucosal dendritic cells. Then these dendritic cells, once activated and loaded with antigens, these dendritic cells become mature and migrate to the local lymph nodes and present processed allergens, peptides to native T cells. By these, they activated the allergen response, and the interleukins are produced now by the body for these allergens to be deactivated. For the deactivation of these allergens, the body produces the response in case of by the production of the interleukins. Interleukins by different ways acted upon either upon the globular cells. By acting upon the globular cells, they convert these globular cells and produces the mucus as a response of the allergic reactions. Either they produces the prostaglandins, and by producing these prostaglandins, they are activated the mast cells. They act upon the mast cells, and the mast cells are activated and they produce the antibodies like IgE antibodies. And these interleukins also acted upon the B cells and linked to the for the production of the IgG antigen antibody G immunoglobulins G type, which are also the antibodies and give to the response. Similarly, interleukins also activated the show the response toward the eosinophils, and these eosinophils activated the leukotrienes, or they produces the reactive oxygen species which acted upon the smooth muscle cells, and these smooth muscle cells, when they are activated by the leukotrienes or raw species, these are related to the activation of the for the activation of the Th17 cells, and these Th cells are released for the acted upon the neutrophils, and they releases the production of the TNF factor and also for the interferons which are the response of these allergic reaction by the interleukins. Now we goes towards the how these interleukins are acted by the mode of action. What is the mode of action of these interleukins? Interleukins actually activated the JAK-STAT. They activated the JAK-STAT pathway interleukins 6 by taking some examples. Interleukin 3, interleukin 2, they are on the extracellular surface the receptors are present on the extracellular surface. These interleukins are bind with the receptors and they activated the JAK. JAK proteins, they activated JAK2, JAK1 and JAK3. They activated JAK1 and JAK3. They activated JAK1 JAK2 and tyrosine kinase 2. By the phosphorylation process, these activated the STAT proteins, STAT3, STAT5, STAT6, STAT1, STAT2, 4. 5, stat 1, stat 5, stat 3, stat 6, and after the dimerization of these stat proteins, the transcription factor, activated in the nucleus. So by this JAK-STAT signaling pathway, these interleukins are act upon and bind with the JAK protein. Then they phosphorylated the STAT protein, and the STAT proteins are dimerized, and after the dimerization these STAT proteins goes to the nucleus and they activated the transcription factors and show the responses against the allergic reactions. This is the mode of action of the interleukins. I hope you have a better idea about the interleukins, how they are acted, and they activated the different types of reactions during the inflammation. If you have any questions regarding these interleukins, action, mode of action, function, and their types, you can approach me on WhatsApp group, either on the Gmail account or by putting the comments in the comment area. Thank you so very much, students. Allah Hafiz.